Hello, welcome to Your Health is Your Greatest Wealth. I'm Blanca, and I have the pleasure to introduce my friend, Don Westrum. Don, you have a very impressive background that I can't even begin to introduce you. So I'm gonna give you the platform and let you introduce yourself. Tell us about you.
Yeah, hi, my name's Dawn, and I seem like I've always been interested in health, but first I went a little extreme and did a lot of ultra running and Ironman and Spartan races, and I was in the Army for 10 years, traveled around the world, and then I came back to say, what can I do for other people? How can I help them? And it's been health and nutrition and micronutrients.
That's great. So I actually met you at a health and wellness event. We had a celebrity giving an intro on just health and wellness. He is known as the godfather of biohacking, Dave Asprey. And going to that event, I met you and found out about what you're doing, which is also helping people just optimize their health. You have a company called VIGEO Health, and you actually helped me with a screening. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you do with that?
Yeah, so I focus on micronutrients. I'm a nutritionist and I kind of introduce myself as the nutritionist who doesn't mess with people's diets. That's not 100% true, but I use the Oligoscan and I use a comprehensive health history to look for micronutrient deficiencies in your diet and your lifestyle that can really be affecting you.
So Don, tell us a little bit about the Oligo scan. What does that do?
Yeah, so the Oligoscan it's called a spectrophotometry, and it takes just a scan of your palm with frequencies. So every element on the periodic table has a frequency of light. And so it just scans your palm. It's non-invasive. It's an instant test that gives you results right away. And it just looks for vitamins, minerals, and heavy metals that are in your cells. And it gives you like a real-time reading of what's going on inside.
And so when I did the Allego scan reading with you, it gave me recommendations of what I can do to optimize my health. Can you give us a little snippet of information of how that helps you help your clients?
Yeah, so I can see trends on the Oligoscan. If you eat a lot of sugar or you have a lot of sugar cravings, then I see your chromium can be low and your cadmium, your heavy metals can be high. So that gives me an idea of what's going on inside. And sometimes vegetarians, for example, can be really like sort of a low profile on the Oligoscan. They're just not getting enough minerals and vitamins in general.
And I actually fall into that category. I'm vegetarian, and you started talking to me about peptides. For our audience, can you tell us what peptides are and how they help?
Yeah, so peptides are more of a household word than they used to be. In the last couple of years, they've come out with all these weight loss peptides, which do work well in conjunction with some change in diet and lifestyle. But peptides in general are just short chains of amino acids that are sections of peptides. So we already make all of these in our body. That's why our body doesn't recognize them as foreign. So there's a specific peptide that helps heal the gut. If we take that orally, it can help. I mean, that's a big part of my clientele is people that come with gut issues and trouble digesting and trouble losing weight. And so if we can heal the gut, that's like the basis for all of our other health systems getting better. So there's a peptide called BPC 157, and it's actually made in our gut. And we can take that orally in greater amounts than we make it. And it helps heal our gut mucosa, heal the lining of our stomach so that when we do eat foods, we digest them better. And it helps with allergies and food intolerances and just digestion in general.
So, Dawn, you've been studying nutrition since 2004, and just recently you received your health coaching certification from the Institute of Integrative Nutrition. And when I was chatting with you, you also mentioned that you used to be vegetarian. Did getting this certification um, help you shift over to no longer being vegetarian?
Yeah, I actually was vegan for a little while, and it was the period of my life when my health was the worst. So, and I can point back to races that I've done. So I did a 100 miler while I was a vegan. And it took me 36 hours to run that race. And afterwards, I was just done. And for 3 weeks, I either went to work or I laid on the couch and slept. And I couldn't get my energy back. I just didn't have any reserves because my body now that I can look back on it, my body was so short of nutrients that I just used them up and couldn't replace them. And then 2 years ago, I did a 100-miler as like a more healthy, well-rounded, like omnivore. And I finished the race in under 24 hours. And a couple days later, I said, well, I'm still sore, but I feel fine. If I could just go do anything, and my energy was fine. So that it really taught me a lot about what I needed and what my body was asking for.
So can I just say on camera, unedited, you are such a badass. For our audience that don't know your background, you have run over 100 ultra marathons. Several of those are more than 100-mile races. You've also done adventure races, multi-day adventure races like the Spartan. And there's one event in particular that just blew me away. When I found out what it was the 2015 Red-Bull X-Alps. You are also a paraglider. Can you tell us a little bit about that adventure race?
Yeah, I love paragliding. It makes me feel like I'm a bird. You just get to fly around and get a bird's eye view of the world. And it's such an amazing feeling. And so the X-Alps in 2015, I was the second woman at that point to ever be in the race. And it's a race from Austria to Monaco. Over that year, it was 11 days. So I ended up flying 500 miles, and when I landed, I would have to just hike up to the next hill to find another place to fly. And my husband followed me around in a motorhome and would feed me and give me a place to sleep for a few hours at night. And so for 11 days, I just flew my way around the Alps, and it was so beautiful. And also the scariest experience too. I mean, you fly into valleys and you don't know what the terrain looks like, and you don't know if there's a place to land.
And you also happened to write a book about that adventure, Racing to the Sky. Just so amazing. And so when you were doing that adventure race, which by the way, I have to add, I know it has been predominantly a male race, and you were one of the first women in the last decade to actually do that event, that multi-day event. And wind is a factor, technique and skill. And even just, I saw footage, you have to run with your paragliding parachute up different hills, correct? So that takes a lot of strength, energy, stamina.
Yeah, you really need a background in both long distance running and a lot of experience paragliding, because you're putting yourself in situation and wind conditions that are unknown and often dangerous. And so you have to be able to keep your head around you in the air, but still have the reserves of energy to be able to. I think I climbed 100,000 feet of elevation in those 11 days, because all I would do is get to the hill, fly, land in the bottom of the valley, because you fly as far as you can, and then you have to climb up to the next place where you can launch again.
And from what I saw, the wind was really bad that year, 2015.
It was pretty
I
windy.
think if you
Yeah,
would
I
be up to-
definitely thought I wasn't going to live through one of those days. Yeah, I came over a peak, and usually you get a little bump at the top. And so the wind comes up both sides and you sort of get a nice lift. And I came over the peak and I didn't get a bump. And I was like, so the wind was super strong and actually just rolling over the hill. So I got in the downdraft, and like the wind's doing this, and my wing just balled up. And so I have like free fall of like 6 meters a second for a while, and then it would pop back out. And I was over these huge pine trees and some power lines. And I was like, okay. And usually when you get close to the ground itself gives you a little bump of air. So I was like, okay, I'm like, just hands up, let it fly, see what happens. And a couple hundred feet above the ground, I was like, there's a little place to land, and poof, that popped out and I landed. I was like, I think I kissed the ground.
You are so humble. I think you're amazing. I feel like I'm with athletic royalty. And so from that period to this, other than maybe becoming a meat eater, is there anything you've drastically improved to optimize your health so you could continue doing all these events? What is your biohack?
Yeah, I try it all. And I tell people I try to do all these things to show them what they don't need to do and the money they don't need to spend, because sometimes things work and sometimes they don't. And, you know, I've put a lot of time and energy and money into seeing what works and what doesn't. And there's some fascinating things, and some of it's free, like going outside and walking barefoot in the grass and getting some sunshine on your face. All of that, like breathe deeply outside in sunshine. And that is almost better than any biohack.
So Dawn, you also served in the military. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that helped you prepare mentally with your mindset to do all these adventure races and just endurance adventures that you do?
Yeah, I think the Army gave me part of what I call is just the concept that I can do anything. If I want to do something, I can find a way to accomplish it. And that's served me well in life. And I'm not sure if it came from the Army, but definitely that helped. And I did my first marathon in the Army just as a dare. One of my first sergeants was saying, "Hey, like there's a marathon this weekend. Do you want to do it?" And I said, "Okay." I'd literally never run more than 6 miles. We finished the race. I think it took 7 hours or something, but it was like, I can do this. And I think I did another one 2 weeks later. Like, all right, let's do it. And ever since then, it's like, yes, I'll do it. I'll pay for it later, and that's okay.
Yeah, so on this platform, your health is your greatest wealth mindset as part of your holistic well-being is definitely something we focus on. And I love what you said, that you just had that inner confidence that, yes, I can do this. Have you always had this sense of confidence and the strong mindset of being able to accomplish what you set your mind to?
I think I have. I think in ninth grade, I told my mom I was going to be valedictorian of my high school. And she said, "Why would you want to do that?" I said, "I don't know, because you can." And then I did. I just didn't let anything stop me from accomplishing it. Once I verbalized it, I made it happen.
That's great. And so you in your own right are so accomplished as an athlete, and you have taken that a step further with your nutrition certification. Was there a pivotal moment when you were doing all these races and you were in the Army and also paragliding that made you decide, I really think I want to get into nutrition?
Yeah, I started listening to Ben Greenfield and his podcasts, and it awakened this need to be better. So it's not just, can I finish a marathon, but can I do it faster? Can I do it without injury? Can I do it and still feel good the next day? And so it was just a slow addition of things. So I have some certifications, but most of what I've learned is the hard way. I try something, see if it works. If it works on me, I try it on my friends and my family and see if it works for them. And if it doesn't, move on, try something new.
So I think so many of us in the athletic world, I've done several marathons myself, not ultras, definitely marathons. And I know as I've gotten older, I'm always looking for things to help me optimize so that I don't hurt as much, so that I recover faster, so that I can then look forward to that next event. And so definitely, I think biohacking and improvement and mindset is something that we as athletes or just individuals that want to constantly work on self-improvement and areas in our life are always looking at. So I commend you for starting this company, VIGEO Health, that helps others optimize their health. Can you talk a little bit more about that facility and what it is you do there?
Yeah, I help athletes achieve their best race. So if they want to get a PR, a personal best, or a record, or just improve the way they feel when they race or run, I have some cool ideas for that. But mostly I just have clients who want to improve their life in general. And that's micronutrients. It just comes back to, do you have all the ingredients you need in your body to do all the chemical equations that you can? And I use magnesium as an example because Magnesium's used in 800 different chemical reactions. And if you just have a little bit of magnesium, your body has to prioritize keeping you alive rather than doing all the things that it needs to. So it'll keep your heart beating with magnesium, but it'll say, well, I don't really have enough left over. Maybe you're going to get muscle cramps or restless leg syndrome. So if we can identify those needs that your body has and replace those micronutrients, then the body is amazing and it will heal if you give it all the ingredients. So I focus on that rather than foods. I think foods are, obviously necessary, but they don't have the nutrients that they used to. And if you are already healthy, then yes, a healthy diet will be great. But if you're coming from an unhealthy place, then some targeted micronutrients will help you get back to that optimal place. And then you can use food to stay there.
Yeah. And so Dawn, I really appreciate that you said that. I've actually had a previous guest here, and my question to this guest was, for individuals that don't understand supplementation and think they can get all their nutrients from their food, why is supplementation important? And definitely the food we're seeing growing out of the ground today is not the same food that was growing 50 years ago, 100 years ago. The soil is just not rich with those nutrients. And I too became aware of magnesium and its needs when training for my last marathon. And I think it made such a world of difference for not cramping. So I applaud anyone that's just educating people on just why we need supplementation. And one other question for you, actually many questions.
Sure.
So for those in our audience that are vegetarian or vegan and understand the need for peptides, but aren't willing to cross that threshold into the omnivore world, what piece of advice, recommendation can you give them to improve their own health if they're not in that place to cross that threshold into the carnivore world?
Yeah, okay. So my basic recommendations to everyone include trace minerals and an organ supplement. And so I say, like, our ancestors used to eat nose to tail. And that means when we killed a cow, we didn't just eat the steak. We were eating the heart and the brains and the lung and the liver and intestines and hooves and everything else that we could figure out how to put in a pot, right? And so it's hard to be healthy, even as an omnivore, if you're getting foods through the middle aisles of the grocery store and they come in a box and you call yourself a meat eater, like that's maybe just as unhealthy as being a vegetarian who's not getting the nutrients, because those nutrients are in liver. Those nutrients are in the other places, not just the steak that we get at a restaurant. And so I do have a lot of clients that don't want to eat organ meats, and that's fine. You can supplement it. But instead of setting them to a multivitamin, which might have synthetic ingredients, I just say, get it through an organ meat. If you really just don't want to touch any animal products, then it gets a little harder. But if you're willing to take supplements, even if you don't want to eat the liver or eat the steak, then organ supplements can make up for that, as well as minerals. It's just like some profiles, you can be really short of nutrients on the oligoscan, and that interferes with your ability to detox and lose weight and feel good and get rid of brain fog. And just some basics, the organ supplements, the trace minerals, those can be amazing.
So Don, as you're talking about the trace minerals, I had this quick reminder that when I was at your office, you had this chart on your wall. It was the periodic table of elements. Can you talk a little bit about that and how it relates to nutrients and micronutrients?
Yeah, so our body's composed of, there's different counts, but 91 minerals, and some of those are major minerals like calcium and magnesium. Some of those are micronutrients like copper and all sorts of other things, and boron. So I point to the periodic table as most of what you're short on are elements of the periodic table. So if you walk into a vitamin store or a pharmacy, there's 1,000 things on the shelves, and most of those are just supplements that help you deal with side effects. But what's causing it? What's the base reason why you can't think or your knee hurts? Like, let's go after the basic reasons, and those are like nutrients that you're short of.
And So Don, when I was with you, when we did my oligo scan, you also mentioned something about lymphatic drainage for toxins. Can you talk a little bit about that? You gave me this nifty little brush.
Yeah, so I give all my clients a dry skin brush. And first of all, it just feels amazing when you use it on your skin. It feels rough at first, but then your skin responds to it. The lymphatic system is right on the surface of your skin, and it works by movement. So it doesn't have a circulation system like the heart pumps blood. So it's relying on your own movement. And so if you're a sedentary person, or you sit for work all day, or if you're just not getting that many steps in, or you're injured and you can't exercise, dry skin brushing, like you always just want to brush towards your core, towards your heart. It helps you recycle some of those pieces of cells, like dead cells or toxins, whatever is being like recycled in your body. It helps it bring it back to the core, and then your body can deal with it. So yeah, and it feels good. It might help you sleep.
Yeah, that's great. And you know what? I really learned that about you with regards to helping the lymphatic system. And that really is something that everybody can do at home. I like that you present options that are low cost, no cost, and people can just take little steps for their overall wellness. And the compound effect is really what we're looking for. Um, so Don, another interesting thing I found out about you is you have your own chickens. Can you talk a little bit about just that and your belief in eggs and your chickens?
Yeah, I do have my own chickens, and they always come clucking over when I walk over. They're super friendly. I think eggs are the best form of protein that's out there. So everybody's concerned about protein these days. Do I get enough? Do I need protein powders? Should I take extra? And the honest truth is, most proteins don't digest very well, especially you get a protein powder. It's something like 16% digestible. And what does that mean? The other 84% is going to be either converted to sugar in your body or just excreted. And that's just stuff going through your digestive system that isn't doing you any good. So you take a steak, that's about 33% digestible. A chicken egg is 49% digestible, meaning it's the highest natural form of protein that you can absorb. Plus, it has a ton of minerals and vitamins in it. And I actually add iodine to my chicken water because we're all chronically low on iodine. So if I give eggs away to friends, then I know like they're getting a little extra iodine, whether they supplement it with it or not.
Um, and so Don, you also mentioned the gut issue. I know that is one of your specializations working with clients. What is one of the major things you see that you help people tweak with regards to their gut so that they can just have better overall health?
Yeah, so this is a bit of a complicated topic, but let's talk about methylation. And so we all have DNA mutations, and you can get a DNA test to see what those are. You don't really need it, but one of the mutations is called the MTHFR mutation, and pretty much everybody has one of the 5 big DNA mutations that affect gut and methylation. So in your gut, you need B vitamins to make enough stomach acid to digest your food. So, and a lot of our food is fortified with folic acid, which is the synthetic form of the B vitamin. And our brains mostly, like something like 99% of people have some sort of issue with digesting folic acid, and our brains can't deal with it. And so that's downstream effects are anxiety, depression, ADHD, gut issues, and like sometimes high blood pressure, high cholesterol, that sort of thing. But everything begins in the gut. So if your stomach acid isn't high enough, then you get heartburn, then you have other downstream issues. So if we could just as a society vote with our pocketbooks and start avoiding foods that say enriched or fortified, that have synthetic folic acid added, we would probably be much happier overall, and we'd fall asleep faster, we'd stay asleep, and have less gut issues.
And Don, what I also found fascinating listening to you present is you were talking about postpartum depression and folic acid,
Yeah.
which I had never heard of before, the correlation. Can you expand a little bit on that?
Yeah, so that's why I avoid giving people synthetic multivitamins is a lot of times the B vitamins in them are synthetic. So they're going to say folic acid instead of folate. And so if I do agree with supplementing during pregnancy to make sure that you have the full complement of vitamins. I just don't want you to get that synthetic folic acid form because it actually can cause postpartum depression. So you take the vitamin, you think you're helping yourself, your child is born, and then you just feel like total crap for a while and you blame it on the postpartum. And really, it doesn't go away until you stop taking your prenatal vitamins. And then you start to feel better and you think, oh, it was just the pregnancy. Well, no, it was just the vitamins. So go home and check your vitamins and see if it says folic acid. And if it does, literally throw them away.
So good, so good. Thank you for the advice. So Dawn, is there anything that I did not know to ask you about what you do with your VIGEO Health practice and helping others improve their health?
We didn't talk about allergies yet, and that's
Oh.
just such a common cause. I have a lot of clients that come in with allergies, and it comes back to the nose to tail eating, right? So kidney in our body is what helps regulate our histamine production. So if we have allergies, that means our kidney can't regulate it properly. It overproduces histamine, and that's when we get the runny nose and the, red eyes and all the other things going wrong. And it's a lot of times, not all the time, but more than half, I would say, if you just eat kidney or take kidney supplements, your hay fever, your allergies will get a lot better.
And I actually also wanted to ask you about sugar. You and I had a very interesting discussion about sugar and parasites in your stomach, in your gut, in your intestines.
Yeah, parasites are interesting. I mean, we all have them on some level, and we don't want to get rid of all of them. Like some of them are symbiotic and help us, but when you ask a room of people to raise their hands if they have sugar cravings, a lot of hands go up. And so there's some old research about turpentine and sugar. So parasites love sugar, and some of that craving, it maybe isn't us. Maybe it's something living inside of us that wants that sugar, that feeds off of it. So if you put a little bit of turpentine on some sugar, and there's some well-documented books out there that my website will point you to, the parasites are attracted to the sugar and repelled by the turpentine. And this for me was the biggest change I've seen in the last little while for myself, because I've had sugar cravings that I just can't conquer. Whether I eat it or not, they've always been there. And the first time I tried turpentine and sugar, oh man, all of a sudden I didn't want sugar anymore. And I couldn't even explain to you before that what that felt like. And all of a sudden I can walk by it and not want it. I mean, I equated it to you eat the hugest Thanksgiving dinner at your grandmother's that you could ever stand. Your stomach's super full. You come home and I would still want to walk in the pantry and eat Twizzlers. And even though I knew I already felt sick and that would make me feel even worse, I still wanted it. And all of a sudden, that same day I tried turpentine and sugar, it was gone and it hasn't come back.
Yeah, so I became aware of the sugar feeding parasites about 4 years ago, and it completely freaked me out and disgusted me at the same time. So I have started doing periodic sugar cleanses. And the first time I did it, I was just so shocked to find out all the hidden sugars in some of my favorite foods, including salad dressings. So it just made me really aware to monitor my sugars and hidden sugars, because I definitely did not want to feed the parasites.
Right.
So
But getting rid of those cravings, that's a whole nother thing entirely, because it frees you up to make better food choices.
well, what an amazing discussion, Dawn. So Dawn, you actually just came back from another adventure race this weekend. Let us know a little bit about what you just accomplished and what your next goal is.
Yeah, I was down in Las Vegas for a Spartan race, and it's my favorite type of race these days. It seems to suit me well because it's a mix of running and strength. And so you have to prioritize, like, how fast can I run to have the air left to be able to climb a rope or to carry a heavy bucket for a while. And I just love this format of racing. But I'm actually trying to better my PR for my marathon this year. And I'm using some strength training, like putting ankle weights and walking over hurdles, just to get my hip sockets to be more flexible so that my stride length increases. So we'll see. Ask me in October if it worked.
Yeah, that's so amazing. You are very inspirational. So I run, that is the sport I love, and I do it with a lot of running groups, which I love because there's so many people in my group that are such better runners than me, and it inspires me to just constantly try to improve, or sometimes just even getting out the door and running on the days that I don't feel like it. I make myself do it anyway because I know my fellow runners are doing it too. So a little bit of accountability helps, and definitely signing up and doing events just helps keep me in that same trajectory to constantly just keep improving. So I know that's been very beneficial to me. Thank you so much, Dawn Westrum, for being on this episode of Your Health is Your Greatest Wealth. I love your energy. I love your enthusiasm for health and athleticism, and I would love to invite you back for another guest appearance.
All right. Yeah, that sounds great. And we actually have a grand opening for our running gym and my office on April 6th. So I can give you those details, but
I would love that.
yeah, we're going to have a
Amazing.
group run and then an open house so you can see our running gym.
Absolutely. And I will also include the link to your website on this YouTube channel.
Awesome.
Thank you for being with us here today, and I look forward to more conversations with you.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you.
me on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.